Hi, welcome to A Gray Barn Rising. I'd like to read the poetry this evening of a great poet of the American West and one of my favorite poets, Richard Hugo. He has many books. I would recommend getting his collected poems, Making Certain It Goes On, which is marvelous. You'll have the full array of Richard Hugo's poems. I'm going to read from Hugo's work this evening, but I'm going to read a few poems from The Lady and Kicking Horse Reservoir, which is my very favorite Richard Hugo book. It's collected in the collected, so if you get the collected, this entire book will be there. I really enjoy reading a book in the original editions, and this book is available as well. I love the feel and the texture and the memories of having the book even before it was collected in a larger collection. Just a poetry quirk of mine. Richard Hugo grew up in the Seattle area in a little town called White Center in the state of Washington. And as he matured, he took a job in the 1960s on the faculty of the University of Montana. So many people associate him with Montana, and certainly he's a poet of the American Northwest, but also a poet of Montana. What's beautiful about Hugo's work, to me, among many of its fine attributes, is that it does not simply remain regional. It reaches through and past those designations and boundaries into something larger than itself. It grounds itself certainly in the region of the American West, but in doing so, it finds this wonderful particularity and specificity that then enables it to move well beyond itself. So I've selected a few poems of his that I particularly love. I didn't know which ones to select because I love reading Hugo, but I thought you might enjoy these this evening. And Bootsy, I hope you enjoy these as well. This is Bootsy Beagle, for those of you who don't know. This is called The Only Bar in Dixon. Home, home, I knew it entering. Green, cheap plaster, and the stores across the street toward the river failed. One Indian depressed on Thunderbird, another buying Thunderbird to go. This air is fat with gangsters, I imagine, on the run. If they ran here, they would be running from imaginary cars. No one cares about the wanted posters in the brand new concrete block P.O. This is home because some people go to Perma and come back from Perma saying Perma is no fun. To revive, you take 382 to Hot Springs, your life savings ready for a choice of bars, your hotel glamorous with neon up the hill. Is home because the Jocko dies into the Flathead? Home because the Flathead goes home north, northwest? I want home full of grim permission. You can go as out of business here as Rivers or the railroad station. I knew it entering. 5 bourbons, and I'm in some other home. He has a lot of poems about Montana bars and several about various bars in Dixon and various poems about Dixon. You'll often see Hugo poems that carry a title of a place name in Montana. And in fact, the next poem I'm going to read is called Hot Springs, which is referenced in the poem that I just read to you. This is Hot Springs. You arrived arthritic for the cure. Therapeutic qualities of water and the therapeutic air. 25 years later, you limp out of bars, hoping rumors will revive. Some doctor will discover something curative in natural steam. You have a choice of abandoned homes to sleep in. Motels constructed on the come went broke before the final board was nailed. Operative still, your tainted fantasy and the deluxe hotel. You have ached taking your aches up the hill. Another battery of tests, terrible probe of word and needle, always the fatal word, when we get old we crumble. They wave from the ward and you creak back down to streets with wide lots between homes. When that rare tourist comes, you tell him you're not forlorn. There are advantages here, easy pace of day, slow circle of sun. If someday a cure's announced, for instance the hot springs work, you will walk young again in Spokane, find startling women. You wonder why you feel empty and frown and why goodbyes are hard. You go out healthy on the gray, thin road, and when you look back, no one is waving. They kept no record of your suffering, wouldn't know you if you returned without your cane, your grin. I also love the way that Hugo's poems often employ the second person, the you, and how expansive that becomes in his work. And you've just heard that in that poem in particular. I think I will read his most famous poem, Degrees of Gray in Phillipsburg. Phillipsburg was this old mining town that he visited with some friends one day and then returned and wrote this poem, Degrees of Gray in Phillipsburg. You might come here Sunday on a whim. Say your life broke down. The last good kiss you had was years ago. You walk these streets laid out by the insane, past hotels that didn't last, bars that did, the tortured try of local drivers to accelerate their lives. Only churches are kept up. The jail turned 70 this year. The only prisoner is always in, not knowing what he's done. The principal supporting business now is rage, hatred of the various grays, the mountain sends, hatred of the mill, the silver bill repeal, the best liked girls who leave each year for Butte. One good restaurant and bars can't wipe the boredom out. The 1907 boom, 8 going silver mines, a dance floor built on springs, all memory resolves itself in gaze. In panoramic green, you know the cattle eat, or 2 stacks high above the town. 2 dead kilns, the huge mill in collapse for 50 years that won't fall finally down. Isn't this your life? That ancient kiss still burning out your eyes? Isn't this defeat so accurate? The church bell simply seems a pure announcement. Ring, and no one comes? Don't empty houses ring? Are magnesium and scorn sufficient to support a town? Not just Phillipsburg, but towns of towering blondes, good jazz and booze the world will never let you have until the town you came from dies inside? Say no to yourself. The old man, 20 when the jail was built, still laughs, although his lips collapse. Someday soon, he says, I'll go to sleep and not wake up. You tell him no. You're talking to yourself. The car that brought you here still runs. The money you buy lunch with, no matter where it's mined, is silver. And the girl who serves you food is slender, and her red hair lights the wall. What a powerful poem. I love all of those poems. Degrees of Gray in Phillipsburg has such an intensity to it. I'm not surprised that he chose to close the book with that poem, to close his collection, The Lady and Kicking Horse Reservoir. This is just a small taste of the poems of Richard Hugo. They're immense in their reach. They they dive very deeply into the particular and achieve something very large.